Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Roguei Media. My name is Alex Schlerf, and today we're going to be doing a little bit more of an opinion-based video. There's nothing for me to review right now. Usually my Wednesdays are show reviews, but nothing new that is coming out or ending recently. I'm watching Ted Lasso every week. That's far off from being finished. Obviously, X-Men finished last week. Just reviewed Lucky. Check those reviews out on the channel if you haven't yet. But yeah, we're gonna do a bit more of an opinion thing here because I have nothing to review. We're gonna be talking about the MCU's X-Men movie. Specifically, who may fill out the remainder of the roster or cast for the movie. Obviously, if you don't know, you're living under a rock, but you probably do know. But at D23 a few weeks ago, we got the first part of the cast of the MCU's X-Men movie coming out May 5th, 2028. So post Secret Wars, whole new cast, none of the old members back. That's just a Doomsday and maybe Secret Wars thing. But yeah, we got that roster, but at that event, Kevin Feige said that there will be more and there will be more surprises and more cast members, which makes sense because the lineup is a little bit, I guess, not weak. The characters are good, but it's a little bit small right now. So what we're going to be doing in this video is going through all the potential options, my guesses on who I think the roster is going to be, who's more likely, who's 50-50. I actually have like a few categories here that I listed I'm looking at on my computer here. I have the current roster, but then I have more likely, 50-50, unlikely but big names, and then some wild cards as well. So we're going to be going through all of that in today's video. Thanks for clicking this video. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, like, comment. Love the interactions. I always try to respond to comments as quickly as I can. And all the links to everything on the blog is in the description. Thank you so much. But yeah, let's just get into this. So obviously we have the initial roster, and most of the roster we have so far are the big names. We have Jean, Sadie Sink, we have Cyclops, Kit Connor, we have Indy Navarrete, Rogue, we have Charles Xavier, Christopher Abbott, and we have Storm, Maya Boyd, and then obviously Emma Frost. Bit more up in the air if Emma Frost, Samara Weaving, if Emma Frost is going to be on the roster. I wouldn't say it's really guaranteed either way. They could draw more. I know Jake Schreier mentioned the Claremont run. Obviously, or the new X-Men Claremont run, and obviously if they did that, then Emma might be on the roster, but that seems unlikely because a lot of stuff happens before that run to make Emma in a point where she's a teacher at the school. So I don't know, maybe it's a different take, or maybe again it's more hearkening from the Claremont run, but I have a feeling she's going to be more of like a anti-hero in this movie. So yeah, I mean, if we're saying that, then we have, four heroes and Charles on a roster so far. So it's definitely suffice to say that, not just because of Feige said, but we're going to have more characters, more X-Men added to this roster, at some point before this movie gears up for production later this year or early next year. So yeah, like I said, I have kind of a list here. We've gotten a few rumors, over the past, specifically last 6 months, but even the last year or two about the remaining or about what this roster may look like. A lot of people claim that it'd be very similar to the X-Men 97 roster. There were some that said that it'd be the OG5 plus three others. If you don't know, the OG5 is Jean, Scott, Angel, Iceman, and Beast. So obviously we have two of those already. So I actually did really like the idea of that rumor. So that's actually going to play into this list a bit. But yeah, there's no like these rumors. It doesn't feel like any of the scoopers have been totally accurate on this X-Men casting. I have a whole video on this channel where I'm basically acting like it was guaranteed that Kaylee Spaney was going to be Rogue and Charles Melton was going to be Beast. Obviously, Charles Melton still could be, and maybe they'll find another role for Kaylee. But just to say like, the scoopers have clearly been very thrown off in this process. They know the names that are involved. Like, we know that Tom Pellephrey was up for Xavier, and that was a name that they mentioned. And I have a feeling that Kaylee was up for Rogue as well. But I'm not going to pay too close attention to those rumors just because, like, it doesn't seem like they're fully in lockstep on this, which is no discredit to them. I just think Marvel's doing a really good job at throwing the scoopers a little bit astray here. So yeah, let's just get into this. So like I said, I'm not sure about an exact number. I'll give my full guess at the end of this video. But I think I don't know if it's going to be specifically the OG5 and three more, but I think a roster of like 7 or 8 probably makes sense to start off. Obviously, X-Men have so many great, rich characters that means there's going to have to be some both beloved and really good characters being left off. So that's going to be sad, but also it's just the way it is. Hopefully, this movie is very successful and very good, and it spawns a whole new corner of the universe for Marvel. Obviously we've already had some mutants show up. That actually reminds me, I need to put someone else on this list. Which I'll talk about later. But obviously we've seen mutants pop up so far. Miss Marvel. There was Deadpool and Wolverine. We have Sadie Sink as Jean Grey in Brand New Day. But now that we're doing the reboot and we're getting this full new cast, I believe it's going to spawn off maybe to the mutant saga. I don't know. They haven't talked about what the next saga is going to be called or what the focus is going to be, but it just seems like it's going to be very mutant centric. So we'll see about that. But yeah, we're gonna go here with my first category, which is more likely. I guess I could just say like likely is really this category. I have three names here. The first is Beast, and really my thing with this is the fact that clearly they have been casting Beast. Like that is a fact. Like Charles Melton at some point was not a fact, but you can very confidently assume that Charles Melton was up for this role at some point. There was the Peter Claffey rumor as well. Who knows if that was true or if that's still possible. Melton could still be involved in some way. We really don't know. But I do think it's a safe bet to say that Beast is going to be in this. There is the OG5 connection. There is the fact that they're testing for it, like I just said. And I think if they are doing anything similar to the X-Men 97 roster, obviously Beast is a big part of that team. And really, wherever you look in terms of these runs, and specifically the ones that Schreier mentioned in his interview, Beast is involved in those runs. And it's a great character. It's obviously not one of the more beloved characters like Jean or Scott or Charles or Rogue even, but I do think Beast is a great character, and I do want to see him in this roster. I think it makes a lot of sense to see him on this roster. They can also be a little bit more loose with the age range, I think. Obviously, most of the main cast is in their early 20s, but with Beast, I think you can go a little bit older. I think you can make him a teacher at the school. I'm not sure where we're going to really place ourselves in the timeline here. I don't know if Scott's going to be a teacher because they cast a really young Scott around the same age as Sadie, who obviously hasn't been a teacher yet. Emma, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I definitely think they can be a little loose with the age range here. And I do think B should be a teacher, one of the mentors for the mutants, and, maybe explore his transformation. And it's funny because Beast is always one of those people where, his transformation is brutal, turning into this blue monster, and, being intelligent and being all of that, but still looking like this. And that's one of the more interesting mutant stories. But he is more calm and composed. So I think that's very interesting, and they should go for him for sure. So I think he's more likely because they've been casting him already and because he is involved with a lot of these stories. The next two I can kind of group together. We have Angel and Iceman. Again, there is the OG5 thing here where these two were a part of the original roster. The other thing about Angel and Iceman is that neither of them had really been done as much a service as some of the others on this list. Now, obviously, the Fox X-Men movies really went in their own direction and in a lot of ways aren't a great service to any of the characters involved. But, there's moments. But with Iceman, obviously, was barely really adapted at all. And same with Angel. There's parts of those movies where they're in it. And then you look at X-Men 97, neither Angel or Iceman are in it besides in a reference. Maybe next season they were I can't remember what Angel, but I know no Angel because of the Archangel stuff, yeah. And then Iceman obviously was in the original series, and there was that thing with Polaris and all of that. So I think that's something they could tackle more in X-Men 97. My point is that it would be nice to get a really nice comic accurate Angel or Iceman. I don't know if they're going to put both in. Again, if we're counting the roster that I mentioned earlier and we're counting, Jean, Cyclops, Rogue, Storm, maybe even Xavier, you have these three that I just said, Beast, Angel, and Iceman, and that's 8 people. I think that's kind of a realistic choice here. I'm gonna name some people later on that also could be likely could be involved here, but I think that is a pretty solid roster and something that would make sense. In terms of directions I'd like to see them go for Angel and Iceman, to be perfectly honest, I'm not a huge avid fan of those two. I love all the X-Men characters, but for those two specifically, I've never really connected with either of them. So in terms of casting and suit designs or what arc they should go for, I'm not the right person to ask, to be honest. But Iceman's got a really cool power set, so give him that. Make him really cool and all of that. That's going to make him a really beloved character, I believe. And then for Angel, I mean, I guess they could go the Horseman route, but I don't think they're doing that anytime soon, at least right off the bat. By the way, I literally just realized that I forgot Adam Driver in this, but he's not a person of the team, so that doesn't really count. But yeah, for Angel and Iceman, I don't really have anything specific to hearken to. If you're more of a fan of those two characters than me, please let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see, because obviously me being a huge Rogue fan, I have plenty of ideas for that, in this movie and beyond, and even Jean and Scott and all them and Emma. But with Angel and Iceman, it's just not, I don't have as much as a connection to those two. So please let me know what you guys would like to see for them. And again, they're two characters that really haven't been adapted very well. So I would be happy if they were in this roster and involved and all of that. And we do have, a big split between female and male X-Men right now. And I figure they'll probably want to even that out a little bit more. Not that they have to. I don't think it really matters, specifically for a team like the X-Men where they are so diverse. I don't think it matters as much, but still, that might be something that we have to think of in terms of adding on the rest of the team. Obviously, the three that I just mentioned are male, and that would make it a not well depends on Emma, but if we're not counting Emma, then it would be a 4-3 split. So take that as you will, not counting Xavier either. But yeah, those are what I think are more likely. Those are the ones that I think are the most likely to be involved, whether it's two of them, whether it's one of them, whether it's all three, whether it's two of these and then one for the next category. I'm going to say, that's really my thoughts on that. Again, my next category is a 50-50. These are people that I think, and there's kind of a theme with this group, kind of similar to the last one. These are people that I think have been rumored at one time or another and have been pretty involved in some of the recent X-Men storytelling, whether it's in the comics or the animated show. And that's why I wouldn't be shocked to see them involved, but we haven't heard a lot about them recently, so it might be a little bit less likely. So yeah, the 50-50 list here is all full of younger X-Men. Obviously, like I said, the main cast already is in their early 20s, but I'm talking about like teens, like a step below that. The first one I have on here is Kitty Pryde. This was one that was rumored very early on in this process, but again, that was like a year ago, so I don't know if they're casting her right now or they ever were. Probably was just a preliminary search for characters and actors. Julia Butters was the one that was rumored. She has a relationship with Disney. I still hope they do that because I think that would be great. I think she's a great actor, and also she's worked with a ton of popular directors so far. The Russos being one of them. Spielberg. I shouldn't mention the Russos before Spielberg, but the Russos, Spielberg, Tarantino. So she's got the experience. She had the Disney connection. But in terms of the character itself, if they're going for someone like Kitty, I think what would be good is doing the POV character. Now, I know it's been done before. Obviously, it was basically Rogue in the original X-Men movies. I think it was Scott in that second trilogy movies, but I can't remember exactly. It's been a little bit since I've seen them, but I know one of them was technically a POV character. And then with X-Men 97, well, the original X-Men series, it was Jubilee, and then the X-Men 97, it was Sunspot. So we've done this a lot in X-Men storytelling, and I think it's a really interesting character trope, and especially for a movie like this, which is doing a whole reboot and introducing us to all new versions of these characters and all new actors and all new settings. I think it's a really good way to kind of catch us up to speed, especially if there's stuff that's gone on off screen. Like, for example, there's the theory that Sadie Sink was heading to the mansion at the end of Brand New Day. I don't know if that's true or not, but if that is true or anything similar to that is true, then it's interesting to see if the school is already up and running at this point in the MCU, before Doomsday, during Secret Wars, after Secret Wars. We know that Sadie Sink is confirmed to appear in Secret Wars. There's rumors about Indy Navarrete appearing as well. I have really no idea what direction they're going to go with that. It's a discussion for another day. But my point to all this is that if the school is up and running, it would be interesting to see a younger hero come in and kind of be mentored by some of the team, or alongside the team. I do think. I do want to say that there has been a couple. I just forgot about someone else I want to put in this list as well. I'd probably put her in this list as well. But yeah, I think there has been a large thing on the internet where they've been casting Kitty Pryde, and whether it's Kaylee Spaney, whether it's I don't know, Anya Taylor-Joy has been more for Magic, but like there's a lot of actors that have been fan cast for Kitty Pryde, and I don't really like any of them because like if you make Kitty Pryde either the same age or older than this roster that we have so far, Maya Boyd, Indy Navarrete, Sadie Sink, Kit Connor, all of them are like between 23 and 25. And if you have a 25 or older Kitty Pryde, that basically takes away everything that makes her interesting as a character. Like her whole arc in the comics, and they can take liberties and all that, but like her whole arc in the comics is about the fact that she is younger than them and is coming in at a later rate. Yeah, like they can change things and they could make it interesting. I just feel like out of all the characters you could choose, I don't know why you would choose Kitty Pryde if you're going to cast someone that age to join the lineup. So I do feel pretty strongly that Kitty Pryde should be younger. If you're not going to do a younger one, just do it later on. Wait to cast someone else. Really, with all these younger heroes, I think an unknown actor would make more sense. I mentioned Julia Butters earlier. She technically isn't an unknown because she's been in a lot of projects, but like to the general audience, she is. She's not a Sadie Sink type person that everyone really knows because of what she's been in. But I don't really like this idea of like I love Kaylee Spaney and I really want her to get a role in the MCU. I felt bad that she didn't she went up for Rogue obviously and didn't get it, but like let's not fan cast her for these roles that are supposed to be younger. Like let's pick someone who fits the age range and fits the look and all of that. But I would love to see Kitty Pryde. I think it's a great character. I think it's an interesting design. A lot of the suit designs for her I love. And I think it would be a fan favorite as well. So yeah, Kitty Pryde is one option. Another is Jubilee. Another one where people are fan casting older actors. A lot of people want Lana Condor to come back. Again, I feel bad for the way she was treated by, I wouldn't say more. I guess it is Marvel, but like in those Fox films, she was terribly underutilized. And obviously, she's still acting in a lot of movies, so it makes sense in that sense. But again, I just think she's too old for it. I think Jubilee you can take a little more liberties with Jubilee compared to Kitty Pryde, but still, I just think that making her the same age as the team just doesn't make any sense. It takes away a lot of her character because she is this young, energetic, bringing life into these older hero, not older obviously in this case, but like bringing life into these more seasoned heroes. I think that is a really big part of her character, especially in the animated series, whether it's 97 or the previous 5 seasons. So I think it is really important for her as well. But I would love to see her. I have her on 50-50 here, but I would love to see Jubilee. She's become one of my favorites in recent years because of her appearances in Gail Simone's comic run and in X-Men 97 and stuff like that. I've really come to really enjoy her in the X-Men runs and her presence and her relationship with the team and seeing her grow past that point that I just said of her being this younger hero and kind of joining the team fully. I want to see that arc play out on screen, which is another reason that I would like her to be younger, but we will see about that. The last one I put on this list is Sunspot, just because I know Sunspot isn't the most popular character, not like a bad way. I don't think people hate Sunspot. I'm just saying that he's not a more popular character, but he does fit the age range. He was our POV character at the beginning of X-Men 97, so and they've kind of pushed that Jubilee and Sunspot relationship a little bit. So if she was involved, that might make him more likely. And I think he's an interesting character. Obviously, there's a culture that comes in with that, and that's all really interesting. And with the rich family and all of that, I think that can be really good storytelling, and could be something that's missing on this roster. So I don't know. I think if we're gonna get any of these people, it's gonna be only one of them and not two or three. But I just wanted to include him in here because he has been becoming more prominent in the last few years, and I think the voice actor does a great job with him in X-Men 97. So yeah, that's our 50-50 category. I'm not pulling any of those for my prediction. Those are more hopes for me. Like I really hope we get one of those younger heroes because I think that arc paired with the team that might be already a little bit more seasoned and working together can be really interesting on screen. So I'm hoping for that. The next category, again, is unlikely but big names. These are two people that are more of the popular X-Men, are prominent characters in both the comics and X-Men 97, have relationships with people on the team. But I'm just not sure they're going to be included right off the bat. And these two are Gambit and Nightcrawler. Really two of my favorites. Nightcrawler is definitely in my top 3 X-Men. Gambit, obviously I love Rogue, so I love the relationship with Gambit. And I've really, another character where I've really learned to love him through X-Men 97 and the way he's been written and his appearances and his character and the voice acting and all of that. I've really grown to love him a lot over the last few years. And Kurt, I've just loved throughout. Whenever the first time I saw him, which was probably the original animated series when I was a kid, like that is when I've loved him ever since then. And obviously, coming up to X-Men 97 and some of the recent comic runs. But I just don't see them doing them off the bat, partly because we haven't heard any rumors about their inclusion in this film, and also because, like, maybe it's a little bit different for the two of them, but like for Gambit, he typically starts away for the team. He didn't come into the comics right away. He came in, kind of as a villain and as an anti-hero and kind of to slowly work his way up to more popularity. So I think that's something they should do here as well. I think they should do those Bayou origins, the Thieves Guild, all of that. I actually did say to someone the other day that I think a Gambit series would be something really good if they want to continue doing live action stuff on Disney Plus. You get a prominent actor, you do his origin, maybe have indie guest star. I think that could be really interesting. But either way, I think it makes more sense for him to start away from the team. And then for Kurt as well, a lot of this depends on the mystique thing and all of that, and whether they're adapting that and how they're doing it and all of that. But I think also it makes sense for Kurt to start away from the team. This one, I think, more than Gambit, I think it would make more sense for him to be there right away. But still, if I'm saying, all right, if I'm honestly doing it, I would rather have Nightcrawler on the team than someone like Angel or someone like Iceman. But it doesn't seem likely at this point. We haven't heard any rumors of it. We haven't really heard any actors campaigning for it. Obviously, in the runs that Schreier mentioned, Claremont's new X-Men. If he just said Claremont's, I don't know if he was talking about new X-Men or not, but the M inclusion would be think so. Claremont's new X-Men, Nightcrawler isn't involved right off the bat, or at all. I don't think. Someone have to remind me. I haven't read it in a while. But and then Gambit and then in Krakoa, Nightcrawler is involved, but it's a very different version of the character and a very controversial version of the character. And then Gambit isn't very prominent in Krakoa and isn't very prominent in the new X-Men run. He's really become more popular because of Marvel Rivals, because of X-Men 97, and the most recent Uncanny X-Men run where him and Rogue have a big part in it, are pretty much the two main characters. So would love to see the two of them on this lineup, but I just don't think it's going to happen right off the bat. I think, again, with Gambit, you do the origins for him, you slowly build him up from an anti-hero to a hero and build that relationship with Rogue, and then Nightcrawler. It would be interesting to do the circus origin for Nightcrawler. I don't know if that's going to come in the form of a solo project. I don't know if it's going to be something similar to like X2, where he comes in and we slowly learn about his origins. Obviously, don't want to emulate the Fox X-Men movies in a lot of ways, but that could be something interesting. So yeah, I mean, also, by the way, if you have any fan casts for any of these people, but specifically Gambit and Nightcrawler, let me know, because for Nightcrawler, I haven't heard anyone good yet, and I think going for unknown for Nightcrawler could be a smart move, but I haven't heard anyone that interesting for me yet. And then for Gambit, people have mentioned like the Austin Butler thing, or there's a few other big names, but with Indy being cast and with her being a little bit younger, like I just don't think any of those make as much sense. I'm not saying Gambit can't be a little bit older than Rogue, but I just don't think those make any sense. Although I guess they could be casting those two separately because again, they might not start that relationship off the bat because they've only become a commodity more recently, like a actual in love together commodity. But yeah, those are my unlikely. I really hope they're included, but I don't think so. Just to end here, I have a list of wild cards. These are names that I think are interesting and could be involved, but probably won't be. Maybe will be referenced, maybe will appear as a cameo, maybe will be cast in a smaller role, then become bigger later on. We've heard about a few names that could potentially be like that. And yeah, just have a few names here. I'm going to kind of speed run through them. The first one for me is X-23, and I also put Wolverine right below her. Obviously, X-23, Laura is Wolverine, but I'm talking about, I'm talking about Laura and then Logan. Those are two different discussions. For Logan, I really hope they're not doing him off the bat. We already had Logan in pretty much every X-Men movie in the previous saga. He got his due. Hugh Jackman is incredible, obviously, one of the more iconic comic book characters, even if not as accurate. But like he got all those movies. He's probably coming back in Doomsday. He's probably coming back in Secret Wars. Maybe he's even coming back in that X-Force movie that Ryan Reynolds is developing. So I really do want to get a new Wolverine. Obviously, I don't want to, whatever Hugh Jackman is, 50, 60-year-old Wolverine running around on a roster full of 20-year-olds. Like, obviously, I don't want that. You can do like a 40 or 30-year-old Wolverine, maybe, but not as old as Hugh Jackman is. And also, I just want a new person to get a chance for it. But I definitely think they should wait on that. I think they should wait to do Logan until maybe the second or third or some spin-off film. I've heard a lot of good suggestions, like doing a spin-off film and then introducing him to the main roster, or doing an anthology series. That's what Coy Jandreau suggested. I think that would be cool. There's some creative ways they can do it. I just wouldn't do him off the bat. And then as far as Laura is concerned, I think it's a really interesting thing that if you want to do Wolverine, but you don't want to introduce Logan right away, or you want to wait until Hugh Jackman is like officially done, I think bringing Laura in could be really interesting. I love Laura. She's a really good character to me. I find her almost as interesting as Logan in certain parts of the comics. Obviously, they have the perfect casting. Daphne Keane is still, I think she's like 21 or 22. She's played the character over many years, from Logan to Deadpool Wolverine. Um, no clue if she's going to come back in either of these Avengers films, alongside some of the other X-Men. But I think first off, bring her back. Like, you don't need to get a new actor. If they did, cool, but I would feel bad for Daphne. But I just think that's a really interesting thing to bring in her instead of Logan and have her on this X-Men roster and kind of do a reversal of the origin they usually do and what they did in the Fox movies, and have Laura be the first Wolverine and then have a younger or similar age Logan come in and kind of explore the origin between the two of them in a very creative way. That could turn into a spin-off film where both Laura, Daphne, and whoever they cast for Wolverine or for Logan is in a solo spin-off film together, and they explore that kind of flashback origin. I think that could be really interesting. I'm putting Laura in the wildcard section because I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't see them doing that. But if they did, I think it'd be really cool, and I think she's a really interesting wild card. I put Morph on here. Morph is not a very, very prominent or popular X-Man in the comics. Obviously, he has become more recently because of X-Men 97, and I've really liked him in X-Men 97. He was barely in the original animated series. I think J.P. Carlack does a really good job with him in X-Men 97. I just don't know. I don't know if he's prominent enough to be a part of the team. Maybe he could have a cameo at some point, or like a supporting role coming in from some other group. I just don't know if he'll be here off the bat. I just don't know if he's popular enough. Could be proven wrong, would be okay with being proven wrong, and I've heard some interesting fan casts for him. And obviously, Morph is a very important character for a lot of people, who are feeling part of, LGBTQ groups, or more prejudiced groups, which is what the X-Men are all about. So for that reason, I'd like to see, Morph be adapted, but who knows, and if that fits into the story. Mystique is one I put on here. Obviously, early on, it felt like Indy Navarrete might be getting Mystique. She ended up getting Rogue. And there's some people have been like, oh, what if they reversed it and Kaylee Spaney's actually going to be Mystique? Which, by the way, that would be just hilarious. And I actually hope for it. I think Kaylee would be a great Mystique, but that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, Mystique in this, I don't think there was any chance she'd be part of the team, like she was in those Fox films. Like, the Fox films made everyone think that Mystique is like an anti-hero. She is not. She is a full-on villain. Like, Mystique is a villain, and I hope they do that. It's going to be hard, obviously, to live up to Jennifer Lawrence just because she's a very prominent actor, and obviously Rebecca Romaine is coming back in Doomsday. But I think this is an easier role to cast. I think a lot of young actors could do a really good job with this. I think Indy would have done a good job with this as well. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if she's involved and in what way. I actually do think, if I were to guess, I think she will be in this movie, but as an anti-hero or as a villain, and maybe they bring in the Brotherhood. Maybe she's involved with Emma and the Hellfire Club. I'm not 100% sure, but I wanted to put her on this wild card list because I think she's an interesting name. I have Polaris on here in certain adaptations, specifically X-Men 97. Polaris is involved very early on in the journey of the X-Men, so it's possible she just was brought in for X-Men 97. I think there was a good response for her. I think she's in Marvel Rivals, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't play that game as much. But interesting name. I actually thought that Odessa Zion, who was up for Rogue, would be a really interesting Polaris, so I would like that as a fan cast. literally my two other, not fan cast, but two other names for Rogue. The one was Odessa, also Sophie Thatcher. I think would make a good Polaris, but we'll see about that. So I think she's an interesting name that could come in here. Could be part of the OG5 technically. Um, Bishop, another character that's become popular because of X-Men 97. That's going to be a common theme with this list because there's a lot of characters that aren't as big in a lot of the comic runs, but have become bigger because of X-Men 97, which is a good thing, by the way. Bishop is a cool character. There's a couple interesting names I've heard in terms of fan cast for him, so would be okay with Bishop being involved here. I just don't know if he's going to come in right off the bat or really fits in with this roster. But we'll see because they made it work in X Men '97. I didn't know if they were going to be able to. So and it works really well. And obviously there's that relationship with him and Polaris, which is really interesting. All right, we are back. Sorry if the angle or anything or my hair or anything looks different. My battery literally died as I was just talking about that, and I had to charge it for 2 hours. I ate lunch. I came back. Now we're good. If there's any change and all that, sorry. Thanks for bearing with me. So the last two names on this list for me, we're right now we're in the kind of wild card section, and the last two for me are, well, I guess I'll start with Magic because Magic is a character where for me personally, I would prefer for Magic to stay on the New Mutant side of things, or just any other kind of side team within, the X-Men. I don't think it really makes sense to have her on the main X-Men roster. I'm not saying they couldn't do it well, but and I'm not even saying it's probably unlikely they're going to do anything New Mutants related. But I think that I just think that makes more sense for her character, and I guess maybe the same could be said for a few of the other younger names I said earlier. But still, I think that that's what I think about Magic. She's a wild card because they could do something different. They could bring her in. Obviously, there's the whole Anya Taylor-Joy fan cast, which you guys know me. Anya Taylor-Joy is my favorite actor. Do not get her for Magic. She's way too old. She was the only good thing about that New Mutants movie, but it's too late. We don't need her back as Magic. So just forget that. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I could see them maybe doing it. My hope is they do a New Mutant spinoff show. Again, another live action show idea. Do a New Mutant spinoff show. Maybe include one of the members in one of the X-Men movies as like a side character, then spin them off into their own show. That's what I would want. But she's an interesting name. I thought I should mention her. And then lastly, one that I don't think anyone's really acknowledging is Miss Marvel. Obviously, Miss Marvel has now been revealed to be a mutant both in the movies and in the comics. And they did that reveal at the end of Miss Marvel, and they didn't really address it at all in the Marvels. I thought, I guess there could have been some connection with the fact that, the X-Men came in at the end of that movie, but she wasn't involved with that. So I don't really know what they want to do with her. It's kind of similar to my opinion on her becoming a mutant in the comics. Like the run that spun out of that was pretty good, but I haven't really noticed her in many comics recently, so I don't really know what they want to do with all of that. I personally prefer her as an Inhuman, but just moving past that because it's happening. She's a mutant in the MCU. Not one that I could see being on the main team. Definitely not off the bat, but it could be something where Spider-Man is basically a mutant at this point. That's how he's written in the shows and the comics and all of that. So it could be something similar to that, where like she'll cross over a lot with our X-Men and our mutants, and they'll maybe help her out a little bit and offer for her to join. Maybe she joins for one of the movies as kind of a supporting character. But it isn't something where she's at the mansion all the time. It's something where maybe she spends more often to hopefully the Champions or Young Avengers team or West Coast Avengers. I don't know, like, or she's not even from West Coast. That wouldn't make any sense. But one of these teams that they might introduce, someone like that, one of these spin-off projects, if they keep doing that, probably would fit her best rather than her being on the main team. But I'm very interested to see where they go with her because I don't know. I don't know what the plan is there in the comics or in the MCU, so I'm very curious to see where it goes in the next few years. Either way, I'm happy with anything. Like anything Amon Vellani can come back in, I'm down for it because she's so good in that character, as that character in that role. And the show was just all right for me, but I thought she was a real standout. And really, same with the Marvels. I enjoyed the Marvels actually a decent amount, but she was easily the standout of the movie. She's just so much fun. I love her as a new character, and to see how I want to see her interact with more characters. Obviously, the Champions, that's my priority, but also some of the mutants would be interesting, and I don't know, some of the larger heroes too. So very curious to see where they go with that. So yeah, that's it. If I were to give a guess, if you were to ask me, gun to my head, who do I think fills out the remainder of the roster? I would probably go. I don't want to be boring and go with the three that I said at the beginning, but that would probably be my guess. If I'm going from personal perspective, I would replace one of Angel and Iceman with one of the younger members, Jubilee, or probably Jubilee or Kitty. I know I said some spot, but I'm not sure about that one. Um, but I don't think they're going to do that. I thought at the beginning they would do that, but at this point, with what they've been announcing and some of the teases they've given, I don't know if they're casting a younger hero. I'm not sure about that. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I'm not sure. So yeah, I'll go with the people we got, minus Emma and Sinister, and if you're counting Xavier or not, doesn't really matter. And then adding on Beast, Angel, and Iceman. That's would be my guess, and that'd be a great lineup, honestly, to start off. Not only does it bring in a lot of the heavy hitters, it also brings in a lot of characters that are a little bit undervalued or have been undervalued in the movies, and then also leaves room for so many characters to come in later on. Gambit, Nightcrawler, X-23, Wolverine, Logan, Psylocke, Mystique, like so many. I didn't even mention Psylocke because I don't think she'd be involved in anything but anti-hero stuff. But Cable, like this is what's cool about the X-Men guys. It's like there's so many characters and there's so many stories and so many different interpretations over the years. And funny enough, like I love X-Men 97, which is a very like baseline like adaptation of the X-Men, but my favorite runs of the X-Men are Krakoa and the new X-Men run. So like I really enjoy those different interpretations while also enjoying what we've gotten in X-Men 97 and some of the older comics, and I think Dark Phoenix is one of the better comic runs ever. So yeah, really excited to dive into this mutant saga or whatever it is in the future with you guys on here. We're going to do a ton more X-Men content as we get closer to production. If there's ever a casting that comes out, we know they're casting right now and it's going in production later this year, so if there's ever a casting that comes out, I will either go on TikTok or on here to talk about it because I'm very excited to talk about X-Men with everyone. And you guys have been supporting my X-Men videos a lot, so I'm really excited to, talk more about this in the future. We're in a great time for comic book stuff, and it's really cool to see the X-Men be adapted. So yeah, thanks for watching so much. Sorry about that technical error like 4 minutes ago. It happened at the end, so annoying, but I just had to charge my battery. These things happen. So yeah. If you have any ideas of what your guesses for the roster are or anything like that, drop them in the comments below. Or just what you're feeling about the X-Men movie, what you're feeling about the current castings, or some fan casts. I'd love to hear all that stuff. And yeah, I will see you guys on here probably this weekend with a review. I think I'm going to try to see both Coyote versus Acme and Dog Stars this weekend. So one of those is going to be on the blog, one of them's going to be here. With how the reviews are going, that might be Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby, but we'll see. I'll give them both a fair chance. But yeah, so yeah, you'll see me on there then, and much more content, with Marvel and film and all that as we get to the end of the year. So yeah, thanks for all the support. Thanks for clicking this video, and I will see you very soon right here.